What if you could become invisible to negative people, toxic situations, and harmful energies that try to disturb your peace? Ibn-Arabi, the master of mystical knowledge, discovered a spiritual technique that creates an invisible shield around your consciousness. People who practice this method report that negativity simply passes through them without sticking, as if they've become transparent to evil influences. This isn't about avoiding life or hiding from challenges. This is about developing what Ibn-Arabi called spiritual invisibility, the ability to move through any environment while remaining untouched by the negative forces that drain most people's energy and disturb their inner peace. Think about it. Every day you encounter people who are angry, stressed, gossiping, or radiating toxic energy. You walk into rooms where the atmosphere feels heavy with conflict or negativity. You're exposed to environments that seem designed to pull down your mood and scatter your spiritual focus. Most people absorb this negativity without realizing it. They go home feeling drained, irritated, or spiritually depleted, not understanding that they have been unconsciously collecting other people's emotional garbage throughout the day. But Ibn Arabi taught something revolutionary. You don't have to be affected by the negative energy around you. In fact, with the right spiritual technique, you can become completely invisible to harmful influences while remaining fully present and engaged with life. His method is based on a profound understanding of how consciousness works. Ibn Arabi realized that negative energy can only affect you if your consciousness is operating on the same frequency as that negativity. When you raise your spiritual vibration to a higher level, lower vibrational forces simply cannot reach you. It's like tuning a radio to a specific station. If you're tuned to a classical music station, you won't hear the rock music playing on a different frequency, even though both signals are present in the air around you. Similarly, when your consciousness is tuned to divine frequencies, negative energy becomes inaudible, faint, invisible to your spiritual awareness. But how do you actually tune your consciousness to this protective frequency? Ibn Arabi developed a systematic method that anyone can practice. The first step he called divine alignment. Before entering any situation where you might encounter negativity, you consciously align your entire being with divine protection. This isn't just thinking positive thoughts. It's actually shifting the fundamental frequency of your consciousness to match divine qualities like peace, love, and wisdom. Ibn Arabi taught specific phrases of divine remembrance that, when repeated with genuine focus and intention, automatically raise your spiritual vibration. More than just words, these phrases serve as tuning forks that help your consciousness resonate with protective divine frequencies. The second step is what he called transparent presence. This involves cultivating a state of inner stillness that becomes like spiritual glass, completely present and aware, but offering no solid surface for negativity to stick to. When someone directs anger or hatred toward you, instead of your ego reacting and creating resistance, their negative energy passes right through your transparent presence, like light passing through clear glass. You see it, you're aware of it, but it doesn't accumulate in your consciousness. This is completely different from being passive or weak. You remain fully engaged and responsive to life, but negative energies simply cannot find anything in you to grab onto or disturb. The third element Ibn Arabi taught was sacred circulation. He understood that consciousness is like water. It needs to keep flowing to stay pure. When you hold on to negative experiences, replay toxic interactions in your mind, or store resentments in your heart, you create spiritual stagnation that makes you vulnerable to more negativity. His method involves consciously circulating divine qualities through your awareness throughout the day. Instead of ruminating on negative experiences, you continuously refresh your consciousness with remembrance of divine mercy, wisdom, beauty, and peace. You don't need to struggle against negative people or toxic situations. You simply need to increase the presence of divine light in your consciousness, and negativity becomes unable to approach you. This understanding completely changes how you relate to difficult people and challenging situations. Instead of seeing them as enemies to be defeated or problems to be solved, you recognize them as opportunities to strengthen your spiritual practice and deepen your connection to divine protection. Ibn-Arabi taught that some of the most negative people in your life are actually spiritual teachers in disguise. They're giving you chances to practice maintaining your divine alignment under pressure. The more challenging the person or situation, the more you develop your capacity for spiritual invisibility. But this practice requires genuine sincerity. Ibn-Arabi warned that trying to use these techniques while harboring negative intentions or ego-driven motivations would actually make you more vulnerable to the very forces you're trying to avoid. The protection only works when your motivation is pure, when you seek invisibility to evil, not to gain some advantage over others, but to become a clearer channel for divine qualities in the world. He also taught that spiritual protection is not just for your own benefit. When you become invisible to negativity, you automatically become more visible to people who are seeking peace, wisdom, and positive guidance. You become like a lighthouse that negative forces cannot see, but lost souls can navigate toward. Modern psychology has begun to validate some of Ibn Arabi's insights about consciousness and energy. Research shows that people who practice regular meditation and mindfulness are less reactive to stressful environments and better able to maintain emotional equilibrium in challenging situations. Studies of what scientists call emotional contagion demonstrate that we do indeed absorb the emotional states of people around us, often without conscious awareness. But the same research shows that people with strong spiritual practices are much less susceptible to this unconscious absorption of negative emotions. Neuroscience has discovered that certain types of meditation and spiritual practice actually change brain structure in ways that enhance emotional regulation and reduce reactivity to external stressors. What Ibn Arabi described as spiritual invisibility might correspond to measurable changes in how the brain processes and responds to negative stimuli. But for Ibn Arabi, the scientific mechanisms were less important than the practical results. He was interested in developing techniques that work reliably in real-world situations, not just on meditation cushions or in monastery cells. His students reported remarkable experiences after practicing his protection methods. They could work in toxic office environments without being affected by the negativity. They could interact with angry or hostile people without absorbing their emotional states. They could walk through dangerous neighborhoods with a sense of safety that came from knowing they were invisible to harmful intentions. Some reported that negative people would literally not notice them, as if they had become transparent to malicious awareness. Others found that people who were usually aggressive or difficult became inexplicably calm and friendly in their presence. But Ibn Arabi always emphasized that these were side effects, not goals. The real purpose of spiritual protection is to maintain your connection to divine guidance and your capacity to serve the highest good regardless of the external circumstances you encounter. He taught that every soul has a specific spiritual mission in this world, and negative forces are constantly trying to distract you from fulfilling that mission. When you become invisible to evil influences, you become more capable of focusing on what you're actually here to accomplish. The technique also works in reverse. Just as you can become invisible to negativity, you can become more visible to positive opportunities, helpful people, and divinely guided situations. When your consciousness is tuned to divine frequencies, you naturally attract experiences and relationships that support your spiritual growth. For modern practitioners, Ibn Arabi's method offers a way to maintain spiritual integrity in increasingly chaotic and negative environments. Whether you're dealing with workplace toxicity, family drama, social media negativity, or the general stress of modern life, his techniques provide practical tools for preserving your inner peace. The practice begins each morning with what Ibn-Arabi called divine armor, spending a few minutes consciously surrounding yourself with protective, divine qualities before engaging with the world. This isn't visualization or positive thinking. It's actually invoking divine presence as a living reality around your consciousness. Throughout the day, whenever you encounter negativity, you return to transparent presence, becoming like clear glass that allows negative energy to pass through without accumulation. And in the evening, you practice sacred circulation, consciously releasing any residual negativity and refreshing your consciousness with divine remembrance. Ibn Arabi promised that consistent practice of these techniques would result in a remarkable transformation. Not only would you become immune to most forms of negative influence, but you would develop what he called spiritual magnetism, the ability to attract positive people and circumstances naturally. More importantly, you would become capable of remaining connected to divine guidance even in the most challenging situations. Your capacity for compassion, wisdom, and effective action would increase because your consciousness would no longer be scattered by reactive responses to negativity. The ultimate goal, according to Ibn Arabi, is not just personal protection, but becoming a source of spiritual light in a world that desperately needs it. When you're no longer affected by negativity, you can respond to difficult people and situations from divine wisdom rather than ego reactivity. You become someone who can walk into any environment and actually raise the spiritual vibration of that space, not through force or effort, but simply through the quality of presence you embody. This is Ibn Arabi's gift to contemporary seekers. The understanding that you don't have to be a victim of the negative energies around you. With the right spiritual techniques, you can move through any situation while maintaining your connection to divine peace, wisdom, and love. The question is not whether negative forces exist. They clearly do. The question is whether you'll allow them to disturb your spiritual equilibrium, or whether you'll develop the invisibility that comes from perfect transparency to divine light. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to the NoorDeen channel for more wisdom and insights.